Rockstar Gang, what up? What up? What up? Appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Welcome to today's show. Holy smokes, the sun is shining down on me. My goodness. I guess that's a blessing, right? I guess that is a blessing. I'm trying to move away from it. Let's get over here real quick. Let's get in the chat real quick. Hold on 1 second here. Let's see here. Or keep any Dalton. Yeah, I mean, can I read it to your question here? I mean, we already have Andy Dalton, so Andy Dalton's gonna be here. Andy Dalton's gonna be here. But you know, we shall see if maybe they bring someone else in, maybe for the quarterback competition. I mean, there's no telling where they go with a backup situation. I mean, I mean, we already got Andy Dalton here for another year. So we shall see. But again, appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Make sure you pound the like button on your way in. That is all I ask from you and my audience, to join the chat and pound the like button. That's it. That's two easy things. Very, very easy things. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. That's it. Those three things are free. If you want to become a member today, the link to become a member is down below. A lot of new things coming, guys. Got some Madden content coming. I'm still working on the software for that. I might end up having to get a new computer, guys. I might end up having to get a new computer to do the Madden content for you, which means I'm going to have to spend probably around over $1,000. So maybe less if I find a deal on a gaming computer. So we shall see. So I'm really working on the details on that. I am working on creating some merch. If you want to get involved with that, let me know. I'm open to ideas. So I definitely will be getting that out here soon. Microsoft is very happy with you. They're probably going to be, because I'm looking at some Microsoft software and a new computer to, you know, get this put together for you guys. Because right now it's with the MacBook, there's too much lagging going on with it when I try to stream it. I've been testing it. But on the back end, we're working on it. So hopefully I can get that Madden content out to you here soon. Definitely want to start streaming some Madden content, doing some rebuilds. Really want to get into that stuff and bring that to light. And because I have a lot of fun of doing that. I have a lot of fun doing that. What up, Toxic? Appreciate you joining the live stream. All right, let's get into today's. Enough of the BS. Let's get into today's topics of the day. My software stocks. Thank you. You know, it's crazy, AJ. I got stocks in Microsoft too. So that, you know, I'm just adding more to it. You know what I mean? I'm just adding more to it. So my stock. So in the end, I'm really benefiting myself. You know what I mean? Clay, you play Madden? Wow. I do. I mess around with a lot of franchises and do rebuilds, or, you know, like after this season, or I do a lot of fantasy drafts and stuff like that, and play with some buddies. Me and my buddies have a Madden league. So, yeah, actually that's true. Madden almost got me a GM job. I sent over my Madden application, you know, telling them I won 6 Super Bowls in Carolina, 8 in NFC championships, basically, you know, just sending that off to letting them know, you know, and what I run, you know, I'm running a spread offense with a 4-3 defense, you know, so quarterback developer, you know, from a coaching standpoint, you know, if I'm a GM standpoint, I'm a team builder, you know. I'm just messing. Oh, man. All right, so let's get into it. Sorry. I'm messing around with the chat. Y'all got me distracted. All right, so we got some key and upcoming dates. now that the offense has officially begun. Um, February 20th. Um, February 20th, we got teams that can designate franchise tags or transition players. February 27th, as you can see, each and every one of these NFL scouting combine, right? Then we've got the start of free agency and trades in March as well, the 11th through the 13th. April 1st is when teams with new coaches can start off-season workout programs. Then you've got the draft, the 25th through the 27th. The May 5th is the deadline to pick up fifth-year options or on your 2021 first-round picks. Sometime in early May, also, the schedule will be revealed. Late July, training camp begins. So, now that the Super Bowl is over, guys, and obviously the offseason has officially begun, as we all know, the Chiefs obviously merged victorious, making their third Super Bowl and win in 4 years. 4 years. So let's not forget about the teams, other teams in this league, like our own, the Carolina Panthers. They may not have made it to the big game, right? They only won 2 fucking games, right? Fucking atrocious season. We know that. All right. But they've made some moves already this offseason, right? Mid-season, they fired Frank Wright, right? Then they let go of Scott Fitter after the season end. And however, since filled those positions, they promoted Dan Morgan as the new general manager, hiring Dave Canales as their new head coach. And then, of course, bringing in Brant Tillis to be that financial guru for the front office. And now the coaching staff is starting to settle in, and now they can focus on fixing this roster. So what's next on the horizon, right? So again, from this schedule, these are the key dates that I just went over, okay? First up on February 20th. So this means that teams can designate franchise or transition players. So for the Panthers, okay, Brian Burns is the most obvious candidate to receive a franchise tag here, all right? Just remember that. Don't be surprised on that date you see news come out that the Brian Burns got franchise tag. Okay. Then February 27th through March 4th, we'll definitely be watching the NFL scouting combine. That's going to take place because where teams get to evaluate draft prospects is everyone's favorite event to overreact to, right? Just because of it's the NFL combine. Then you got the real fun, which begins on March 11th, which marks the start of free agency and trade. So the Panthers are going to have to make some big decisions, right? With the likes of Brian Burns, Frankie Luvu, both of them becoming unrestricted free agents, right? As we all know. And let's not forget about the 2024 NFL draft that's on April 25th through the 27th. So while the Panthers may not have a first round pick, they have the first pick in the second round and several other picks to work with. Then in May, is where the official schedule of the next season comes out, right? And then in late July, training camp begins. So got a lot of off-season stuff coming up, and we're going to continue doing this. We're going to continue doing mock drafts here. We're going to continue going into free agency, who we should target and who we shouldn't. There's going to be a lot of news coming out for this organization for the basically from here till July. We still are going to have football content. We're still going to be talking about the Panthers here at the Ropp Star Report. So make sure you pound that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All right. Click that post notifications bell. Spread offense is OP. Get this guy out of the basement, pay him. I'm not in a basement. I don't even have a basement in my house. My house doesn't have a basement. Taylor Swift won a Super Bowl before the Panthers. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Would y'all trade Brandon Ayuk and also get T. Higgins? I mean, dude, Toxic Black, if they did that, that would be absolutely insane. That would be absolutely insane. Ayuk and Higgins together would be an absolute dynamic duo. It would. It would be an absolute dynamic duo. Could you imagine T. Higgins and Ayuk on the same team where you got two wide receivers who are physical and just go up and get the ball. Like all Bryce has to do is if he works on his deep ball accuracy, toss it up to him. They'll go up and get it. You know? Could you imagine T. Higgins and Brandon Ayuk on this team? On the same team? That would be insane. I would rather have Ayuk over Higgins. I think I would too, Panther Raider X. I think I would too. That tag for Burns is pretty big, not going to lie. It's like 20, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 21 mil, Josh, right? Am I right? 21? Or am I over? Is it 16? It's either I think it's 21 mil, if I'm not mistaken. Josh, let me know in the comments if I'm right on that. I think it's 21 million. Yeah, Panther Raider X, look that up for me real quick. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that before. I think it's 21 million. It's like 21.6 or 21.3 even, something like that for that franchise tag. So, but they're going to have to tag him and trade him though. That's the only way they would be able to keep him. 20.4. Oh, it's over 20. I know. Okay, 20.4 Panther Raider X. Awesome. Okay, so I knew it was over 20 mil. I just didn't know the exact. I thought it was like 21, 20, 21.3, 21.6. I don't know why that number sticks in my head, but maybe it's another reason. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a big tag, but at the end of the day, it's going to, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. You can't just let him walk. You know what I mean? Whether you keep him or, you just can't let him walk. Now, Matt Chatter in the chat, I know, has to be licking his chops at this one. And actually, I'll probably be watching the UFL this year just because they combined the two leagues. Toxic. Let me read this real quick. Sorry. I seen they said Ayuk wants out of 49ers. And I saw one doing TikTok saying he would be a perfect pickup for the. I mean, when you need a wide receiver help, I mean, anybody would be a perfect pickup. I would take Jawan Jennings over there. Hell, Jawan Jennings had like 10 catches for like 110 yards. There's Mad Chatter. There he is. Matt Corral, former Carolina Panthers quarterback, has found his new home in the United Football League with the Birmingham Stallions. Okay, so obviously, from what I've seen, he looks eager to make the most of his opportunity in a different league. Maybe he can make a case for himself to get back in the NFL. Who knows? But for those of you who may not remember, Corral was drafted by the Panthers in the third round of that 2022 draft. Unfortunately, his rookie season was derailed by a Lisfranc injury, and he sustained that during a preseason game against the New England Patriots, who tried to actually bring him in this past year. Then he didn't show up for like 2 to 3 days and went into hiding. We all know that Matt Corral has his issues. He has his mental issues, his depression, his anxiety, and we all deal with that. And I get it. And so I'm not bashing him for that. So I think I'm glad to see him getting an opportunity in this in this league. Since he didn't seem to, I guess you could say that he didn't get it. Do you think he got a fair opportunity here in the NFL? Can you make the case that he got a fair opportunity here in the NFL? I mean, you might be able to make the case that he did. You might be able to make the case that he did, but I thought Corral showed a lot of promise despite the injury during his time when he was here. However, the Panthers brought in Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield around the same time. So, as well as the drafting Bryce Young. So it became clear that his future here in Carolina was just uncertain. So, but hey, no need to worry about that. I think Matt's moving on over to the UFL. I'm excited for him. I'll probably be watching to see what he does for sure. Maybe I'll become a Birmingham Stallions fan like Matt Chatter is. Who knows? Maybe we'll even, maybe, like I said, maybe the guy will make it back to the NFL one day. The sky's the limit for a guy, I think, who's pretty talented. I thought he was a pretty talented quarterback coming out of that draft. And that's just me. That's just me. So, guys, make sure you pound that like button as you're coming in as we go throughout today's show. I posted up all the topics up above in the comment section. So we already went over topic 1, topic 2, 3, 4. So we got a lot of topics to talk about today. We got about 7 topics that we're going to harp on today. Let me get into these comments. That Matt Corral, Terrace Marshall connection going to hit different in UFL. I would laugh if Terrace Marshall went to the UFL and just balled out. I would laugh. Matt Corral also like the Dave Canales hire, so this might be his tryout for the backup position here. Yeah, I mean, fingers crossed. I wouldn't be opposed to it, man. I wouldn't be opposed bringing him back to Carolina. Fuck it, time to make Matt Corral an MVP. I've done that with a couple guys in Madden. I made Max Duggan a complete stud. I made him an X factor in Madden, so I love doing that. I'm trying to understand the cap situation works and trades. Is there a world where we can keep Burns without tagging him, keeping Brown, keeping Luvu, bringing in Ayuk, Higgins, Evans, etc., and but by getting rid of Sanders and Jackson? I mean, Jen, that's a lot to ask for. Unfortunately, I don't see a world where you cannot tag Burns. Because here's the thing, you can't tag him, and if you don't tag him, then you have to sign him to a deal. So you got to be able to sign him to a deal. We're going to have to maneuver the cap space. We're going to go over all that today. All these questions, that question that you just asked, we're going to go over some of it. Now, I might not be able to answer all of that because that is very broad, but I'm going to be able to answer some of it. So stay tuned, all right? Just stay tuned, okay? And guys, make sure as you're coming in, make sure you pound that like button, all right? All right. AJ McCarron was released by the Bengals today. We need a Montgomery-type running back for Rizzies. For Rizzles. He's going back to the UFL with the Blackhawks. That makes sense. Likely, yeah. Thanks. Yeah, no problem, Jen. Just stick around. We'll go over it. That's a lot of in depth that we'll go over. So here we go, Panthers fans. Obviously, if you are here, then you should hear this. There's this rising speculation, right? Sorry, something smelled funky. But anyways, was he really cut? I don't know. That's something y'all are going to have to look into. I don't keep up with AJ McCarron. No offense. There's a rising speculation that the Panthers are interested in San Francisco 49ers, obviously, Brandon Ayuk. And why wouldn't they be, right? I mean, obviously, you're seeing his Instagram thing right here. He wasn't happy, right? And Ayuk is one of the most talented receivers in the league right now. His stats start dreaming of Ayuk, though, in the Panthers jersey, guys. Let me explain why he's such a hot commodity. First off, Ayuk is an Arizona State product. So he finished 4th in yards per route run among all receivers in the league. He's had back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons. He's got elite route running abilities that draw a lot of comparisons to Stephon Diggs. Plus, he's only 25 years old, which means he's just entering his prime. So now I know what you're thinking. The Panthers could draft a guy. They could also get T. Higgins, or they could get Mike Evans. But why Ayuk? Well, here's the thing. Ayuk, I think, is the exact weapon that a young quarterback like Bryce Young needs. Because when young quarterbacks are paired with an elite pass catcher like him, they flourish, right? Just look at Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, for example. Or if you want to make another example, A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, right? And remember, that the 33rd overall pick, which the Panthers could offer Ayuk, can be a hit or miss, right? It's risky with these draft picks, right? Sure, they could gamble on that potential draft pick, right? But why not take a swing on a known quantity that is Brandon Ayuk, right? In conclusion, I think that in conclusion to this narrative here, guys, I think that if the Panthers are serious about improving their offense and giving Bryson the necessary tools, I think that they should pursue Ayuk, if especially of the availability. After all, he could be that missing piece that helps us, right? That and helps us in the ways that we've been needing in that wide receiver position. It just all depends. It just all depends. Was he really cut? Okay. Franchise tag T. Higgins. I mean, that's what I've been told that the Bengals have or will do. I've been told that the Bengals will franchise tag T. Higgins. I mean, we shall see. We shall see. I just don't know. And I don't know if T. Higgins is going to be willing to play for that. Because another thing is they got to sign Tyler Boyd. They're going to have to sign Tyler Boyd if they want to keep him. I don't know. Another thing that I was thinking the other day, and let me know what y'all think about this. I wouldn't be like Darnell Mooney, Gabe Davis. Let me look at the free agency. I wouldn't be opposed to doing something like this because you already got Jonathan Mingo. He's going to be here, right? So looking at this free agent list here. NFL wide receiver 2024 free agents. There we go. The Bengals have a problem because they have to decide who to tag, just as the Giants had to decide to tag versus pay and let go possible trade. Yeah. And so for me, I'm thinking that maybe we sign a guy like, here's the thing that I'm thinking, because I'm also trying to think about it from a cap space standpoint. I mean, here's an idea. Okay. And just hear me out and I'll share my screen. No, we're not blocking Toxic Black. The Bengals have a problem. Yeah, and they do, man. They do. So here's the thing that I was thinking about that we could do. So looking at these wide receivers, right? I've looked up his value. Marquise Brown, he's looking probably at a contract for 1 year or 1 year. I think it was like 1 year, $12.5 million. So I'd be willing to pay a Marquise Brown $12.5 million. Okay. Then I'd be willing to pay a Darnell Mooney or a Gabe Davis or even a Tyler Boyd to bring in and draft a wide receiver. Then you basically have 4 wide receivers and you're stacked at that position. You pay them cheaply, right? Because if we go look at this spot tracker, right? Let's go at spot tracker real quick. So you look at Tyler Boyd, what's his market value at? $8.7 million. You're looking at a $8.7 million per year contract. Not bad. Okay. Let's look at, I mean, hell, even McCold Hardman wouldn't be bad for 25 years old. He would be a cheap option. He'd be a great speedy receiver. Made that final catch in the end zone for them. Now, another market value here. It's $14.8 million. Marquise Brown. I mean, I'd be open to it. He's only 26. I'd be open to it. That's another guy I'd be open to. I'm looking at the guys that we can afford. And then again, you can go into the draft, and grab that number 1 guy that maybe in the future that could be that future number 1. Who knows? Mingo could be our future number 1 for all we know. I mean, there are decent guys that are out here that I think that we could target. and get away with it from a financial standpoint. Like Gabriel Davis market value is 13.6. It's not bad. Darnell Mooney, his is going to be 10.4. I mean, I'd be open to bringing in like a Darnell Mooney and like a Tyler Boyd, based off the contracts that I'm seeing, and then bringing in and then getting a wide receiver in the draft. That way, I mean, then you have Mingo, Mooney, or you got Mingo, Mooney. Who else did we go over there? McCold Hardman or something like that, where you have 3 or 4 guys that you can rely on instead of just, a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. There's multiple ways we can go about it. There's multiple ways you can go about it. But looking at the market value, I mean, Darnell Mooney wouldn't be bad. Statistically, he's not that good. Great. I mean, this past season, 400 yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, that's basically DJ Chark all over again. He did in 2021, did have over 1,000 yards. Then in 2022, not so much. But he also has played for a franchise that has absolutely been horrific. Let's see who else. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to Darnell Mooney. Let's see who else we got. So Gabe Davis. Statistics, let's look at his stats this year. 17 games. He had 700 yards, 7 touchdowns. But the problem is for me with him is that he'll have a 100-yard game, and then he'll have 0 catches, 0 yards the next. So, I don't know, man. I'm not very high on Gabe Davis. I'm not very high on Darnell Mooney either, but if you can get if you can get some decent guys for cheap, like I was saying, between Darnell Mooney's contract and who else had a decent contract? Who was the other one? Where's he at? I mean, Marquise Brown's contract's not bad either. McCole Hardman would be cheap too. Tyler Boyd's 8.7 and Darnell Mooney's for 10. It's kind of intriguing to me because, I mean, Tyler Boyd is not a bad wide receiver. Statistically, he is not. I mean, he had over 667 yards, 10 touchdowns. I mean, I'd be open to bringing him in too. He's just older now, right? He's 29 years old. That's the only issue I have with him. You could always bring back Curtis Samuel. His market value is not too bad. Statistically, he had over 600 yards, 4 touchdowns. So, now I'd love to bring back Curtis Samuel. That's one I would love to bring back. And then obviously T. Higgins is definitely another one. But based off the market value, I would say the best values that you would get out of a wide receiver is probably Curtis Samuel, Tyler Boyd, like value wise, and Darnell Mooney and Gabe Davis. I mean, the value's there. It's just that you wouldn't have to pay these guys like how much you're going to have to pay a T. Higgins or a Mike Evans, right? I'm trying to also save us some money and then also go into the draft. Yeah, I'm not either, Josh. I mean, the only one that I would really want is obviously T. Higgins. My next one would probably be Marquise Brown, then probably Michael Pittman. But other than that, I mean, these guys don't make me like, oh my God, I want this guy, right? You know what I mean? Like, so there's multiple routes here, man. There's multiple routes we can go when it comes to the free agency and the wide receivers and all that stuff. So All right. Why pursuing Hassan Reddick makes no sense. And I'm going to explain why. Because I stumbled upon, obviously, some exciting news this weekend that got me thinking. And the Philadelphia Eagles, Hassan Reddick, has been granted permission by the organization to seek a trade. Now, while some people suggest that the Panthers throw their hat in this ring and pursuing this man, this trade makes 0 sense for Carolina. And here's why. Because the Panthers need to not only don't have the cap space, freaking Mike. Dude, I hate this. I hate this. Too. About to buy a new mic. Actually, I have a new mic. Let's turn this bitch on. I'm buying a new mic. Actually, I have a new mic. We're using this one. Yeah, the Yeti. This one's old, man. I've had this from the beginning. Like I'm talking about 5 years ago. From the beginning. From the beginning. We're going with the Rode. Rode. We're gonna use this today. Rest of the day. We're gonna use this the rest of the day. Put that right there. So you can hear me. All right, I'm going to change my settings too to it. Now we're changing this to the wireless go. Wireless go. That's what we're going to do. We're going to use the wireless go. Hello. There we go. Yeah, Blue Yeti. I've had that Blue Yeti for years. It's time for either a new cord or a new mic, one or the other. So, but I do have this for always for backup purposes, but this is probably a better mic than this anyways. This one cost me like 150, I think, when I first bought it. This one cost me like $350. So, this one's probably better. I don't know. But here we go again. So, again, talking about the Hassan Reddick, why it makes no sense, okay? Obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles allowed this man permission to seek a trade. So some people I've seen suggest throwing their hat back in that ring and bringing back Hassan Reddick to Carolina. But it makes no sense to me, guys. It really does. It makes no sense to me whatsoever because for me, I feel that the Panthers need to focus on building their offense around Bryce Young, first off. Second of all, you already got to extend 2 guys that are on your team, and you got to make that decision between Frankie Luvu and Brian Burns. You got to extend those guys. So how are you going to afford bringing in this guy, let alone anyone else? So, and especially maneuvering the cap space. So that's another thing you got to talk about with the cap issues. So the Panthers need to just focus on one thing and one thing only, and that is rebuilding this offense. Okay. Now, this should not be a top priority of our list, though, of things, right? It's not a top priority, and it shouldn't be. But here's the thing. Not to mention that the financial pieces of this puzzle makes it less appealing because Reddick also carries a $21.8 million cap hit in 2024. And for a team that is coming off a 2-win season, spending that kind of money in an area that's not a position of need is illogical. It doesn't make sense. So unless the asking price for Reddick was considerably low, which is probably not, I think the route for us as the Panthers fans needs to go elsewhere. However, if they decide to pursue a trade for this man, they should keep in mind that Reddick will garner a lot of interest around the league and likely won't come cheaply. In the end, I think that this team has to focus on their offense. And use their limited draft capital to build around Bryce Young. And after all, a potent offense is what wins game in this league now. Defense, it doesn't seem that the defense championships narrative anymore, defense wins championship narrative, works in the NFL anymore. It just doesn't. So I just don't see how this makes sense, guys. I really don't. I don't see how this makes any sense for us to pursue this man. Sorry, I had to clean up my camera there. So that's just me, though. That is just me. Why would you want to keep a two-win team together? Trade away as much as you can, get back the picks for the year, next year, and the year after that. Didn't say I did, Vietnam. I didn't say I did. You jumped to conclusions, my friend. You jumped to conclusions. I'm just asking the question, is there a world where Carolina can keep all three of these guys on the team? Is there a world where we can still continue to keep these three guys on the team and rebuild this team? That is my question. Not necessarily saying that we got to trade as much as possible to get back the picks for this year and the year after. We don't need picks. We don't need that many picks. No, I just read the title. Of course you do, Faydom. Of course you do. It's all good. It's all good. But we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. Don't worry. I'm going to answer that question. Because is there a world, though, Vietnam? It might not seem like that now. But is there a world in your mindset that you think that this team could also keep those three guys and be able to still have draft capital for this year and the next? I think there is, and I'm going to explain myself here shortly. So, as I said, we're going to explain it here shortly. Now, here is the thing. We finally put the final touches on the coaching staff this week. Carolina is close to turning its attention to the depth chart during the NFL business season. And naturally, the fan base is curious about the future, just like Vietnam commented. Vietnam, there's actually a chance. Just hear me out. Okay, I've done my research on this. So my question to you guys is the same one that you see in the description of this live stream. Is it possible to keep Brian Burns, Frankie Luvu, Derrick Brown on this team without decimating the salary cap? And there absolutely is. And you're probably curious how that is. Well, it's because the Panthers are projected to have $129.5 million in cap space in 2025. Then in 2026, this is according to Over the Cap. In 2026, we're projected to have $254.5 million in space in 2026. And that's according to overthecap.com. Go check it out. All right, if you don't believe me. So if the Panthers can reach a long-term deal with all three players, they can largely borrow from 2025 and 2026 to shrink the damage done to this year's salary cap. You can maneuver the cap, guys. Why do you think the Saints were able to do it for so many years? They were taking from next year's and the next year's and bringing it back here for that year. So the Panthers can do the same thing because the Panthers are set to have $28.6 million in cap space this season. So they can maneuver with cuts, restructures during the offseason to open up even more space. And I'm going to talk about that later. But remember, with contract extensions, they can also open up a significant amount of space, okay? So the Panthers will likely franchise tag Brian Burns, which I think they still are going to do, if they can't reach a deal by the deadline. That tag would then put a huge weight on the Panther salary cap, which gives Burns more leverage in a negotiation. So as Carolina would want to drop his contract number significantly with an extension to be able to spend in free agency. So if the Panthers were to reach a long-term deal with Burns, right, they could drop his base salary to a significant smaller figure than the 1-year franchise tag, then spread out a massive signing bonus throughout the contract. All right, stay with me now. This strategy would give Burns a massive upfront pay bump while protecting the cap. So like Burns, Luvu is set to become a free agent in March, right? While Burns is likely, this move is going to be the tag option. Okay. Luvu won't come cheap either after back-to-back career seasons in Carolina. Okay. We know that. But here's another thing that you got to understand is that Luvu could sign a long-term deal similar to the hypothetical one for Burns, where he be given a large roster bonus, which means they would spread throughout the length of the contract. So with a pedestrian base salary for 2024, again, this would borrow from future years with dead money. But Luvu and Burns wouldn't be signed to long-term deals without long-term outlooks. Okay. So with Brown, signing him to an extension would immediately lead to a substantial cap relief. So Brown obviously was the best player on this team last season. Okay. First time Pro Bowl selection, most tackles for a defensive tackle, right? Earned him a big, which is going to earn him a bigger deal, right? So Brown is set to make $11.7 million in his final year of his rookie contract. So that salary is fully guaranteed and counts against the cap without a roster bonus. So both sides should want to get a deal done for that very reason, because when I looked over at the cap, a contract extension for Brown could save as much as $8.43 million on the cap space. So the money then could be used to migrate the damage of the Burns tag entering free agency, or be put towards a Luvu contract and then some. So the only potential pitfall for a set front seven reunion here between these three guys would be that the Panthers and Burns failing to reach a contract extension within the 2 waves of free agency. That outcome could lead to a potential trade or holdout in theory. Okay? But there is ways that all 3 of them can be here. It just means that they would have to maneuver some of that cap space for 2025 or 2026 into this year's cap salary. So there is ways to maneuver the cap. There is ways to maneuver the cap, guys. So there is ways, Vietnam. I told you. I told you. I hope they can figure out a way to keep the defense together so they can focus on the offense. Yeah, I mean, I think that would also be beneficial if they could, right? Obviously, just to be able to focus on that offense. But there is ways. I just explained it. They can maneuver some cap from the future cap space and bring it down to this year, which is crazy. So then it comes off to the next question is so how much cap space can the Panthers really create? Okay. How much cap space can the Panthers really create? Because Burns is looking more like a tag and trade or tag and sign. And then obviously we know with the new executive vice president of football operations, Brant Tillis, has plenty of wiggle room to maneuver this offseason. That outlook is mainly due to how the former VP of football administration, Samar Suleiman, structured contracts. So the Panthers have several notable deals that can be restructured to reduce cap hits in 2024. However, it's essential to be as strategic as possible when it comes to restructuring to avoid future dead money, right? What is dead money? Just some of you that don't know what dead money is, it's a charge to the cap made from advance and guaranteed payments, okay? So contract restructuring generally kicks significant money into future years, which means creating more considerable dead money penalties and significantly large cap numbers in future reasons. Okay. So restructuring an old player or one coming off significant injury could lead to pitfalls, even as the Panthers are expected to have that treasure of space in 2025 and 2026. But obviously, guys, what y'all don't understand is that a restructure typically involves teams significantly dropping a player's salary through a bonus payout, right? So that means that the bonus can be spread throughout the remainder of the contract to make a smaller cap number for the player. All right. So this type of move is usually the routine in the NFL, but that doesn't mean it should be done without rhyme or reason, right? For the long-term outlook. So for instance, restructuring deals of Hayden Hurst and Miles Sanders would make their cap numbers for 2024 significantly more palatable, right? However, the restructure would lead the Panthers paying for Sanders with significant dead money in 2025 when they could take their medicine this year with their current salaries and then be rid of them next season with the minimal cost. So if Sanders and Hurst continue to slump in this scenario, the Panthers would have taken out a significant loan, right, for a poor production, right, which would otherwise come off the books with their respective releases in 2025. So I know I'm ranting here. Anyway, here are some savings that I'm going to go over here real quick. Hold on, I just skipped some comments. I'm sorry. Just get rid of Henderson, Trey Horn for a player and a pick. Carolina Red literally wants to get rid of every corner we have. And I get it. I understand, but I just can't. I just don't see a world where that happens. I think the reality is that this defense, as good as it's been, needs to be restructured something awful. We could be so much better across the board. I get that too, AJ. I get that too. Clay, can you explain more why a franchise tag is better for Burns versus signing long term, borrowing money from the future? Sorry, I'm still learning. Again, so let me explain this again real quick. So again, so I'm gonna explain to this comment real quick, Jenny. We all know that the Panthers set to have 28.6 million cap space this season, right? All right. They can maneuver that cap with cuts, restructures during this offseason. Okay. But remember, when contract extensions, they can also open up a significant amount of space. So the Panthers will likely franchise tags Burns. So if they can't reach a deal by the deadline, that tag, again, listen, that tag would then put a huge weight on the Panthers salary cap. The franchise tag for Brian Burns is around $20.4 million. We were just discussing that earlier in the show, which means that gives Burns, right, more leverage in a negotiation, okay, as Carolina would want to drop this contract number significantly with an extension to spend in free agency. So if the Panthers were to reach a long-term deal with Burns, they could drop his base salary to a significant lower figure than the 1-year franchise tag, which means then they would spread out a massive signing bonus throughout that contract. So that would be the strategy that would give Burns a massive upfront pay bump while protecting our cap space, right? All right. That's what that means. So it's spread out through his contract. I hope that answers that question a little bit. But it's better for, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say the franchise tag is actually better for Burns. I think the long-term deal would be better for Burns and it'd be better for the Panthers organization because the franchise tag still means that we still have to pay him 20.4 million. Now, we wouldn't have to pay him the full 20.4 million once he got traded, but it gets a lot. It's very complicated when it comes to these things. So, anyway, let's get into over the cap. And we're going to do a standard restructures for some notable veteran deals. Now, worth noting that the teams can make smaller restructures, but these are max saving numbers. All right. So let me get into over the cap, and I'm going to show you how we can do that. Now, look at this. All right. So we're in over the cap. Share my screen. All right. So now we're going to go to contracts. So here is the thing. Now, restructure potential. Let's go to the Panthers. Is it the calculator that I need to be clicking on? Yeah, here it is. Okay. Okay. Now, if we go, all right, so we're going to go in here, okay? As you can see right now, cap space, we're at 28 million. Now, watch what this number does as I do this. So we're going to restructure, okay? Cap savings 8, okay? Total existing dead money 4. Okay, so that's restructuring. Here, let me make this bigger so y'all can see it as I go throughout. Can y'all see that? There we go. You can see that. All right, so actually, I think it was better when I had it shrinking. Yeah, there you go. Y'all can see that better. All right, so now let's get into here. Let's go to the next person I want to restructure is Dante Jackson. Restructure there. You save 5.8. 5.4. 5 actually 5 no, 5.8. 5.8. Okay. Let's scroll on down to Von Bell. Restructure his contract, 3.8 million. Okay. Restructure Adam Thielen, 4.9 million. Okay. Austin Corbett. We're going to restructure him, 3.4. Okay. Let's go to Hayden Hurst. Restructure, 3.2. Okay. Let's go to Shy Tuttle. Restructure, 2.6. Okay. Let's go down to Miles Sanders. Let's restructure him. 3.3. Bradley Bozeman, restructure, 2.4. So with these guys, we've so far, Andy Dalton. Where's Andy Dalton? I want to restructure him too. Hold on 1 second, guys. What that was about. Okay. All right. Clay, can you explain? The curious why he's expected to tag in that scenario. Yeah, it's just curious why he was expected to be tagged in that scenario. Because you have to. It's the only way you can do it. That's the only way they can do it. All right, let's restructure Andy Dalton. And let's restructure Akeem Aquano. Oh, you can't. Can't restructure him. You cannot restructure him. Okay. So there it is. So we restructured all of them. Now I don't know if I can save and submit this. Yeah, wait. So if I submit this restructure, okay, submit it. Oh, wait, undo. Submit that. Submit that. Submit that. Submit. 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 And submit. We basically saved over, we went from 28 to $70 million in restructuring those contracts. It's crazy. $70 million in restructuring those just restructure contracts. Just restructuring those contracts. All right. And then another thing you could do is like another case scenario here with restructuring these contracts too is like you basically could also, like with the dead money though, like if you cut him, it wouldn't make sense. Like same thing with Dante Jackson, you cut him, the cap number. But it makes sense it kind of makes more sense when it comes to these players to just restructure their contracts, because here's the reason why. The Panthers could save a lot of cap space by cutting players, but with a new offensive staff in place, moving on from veteran players who might not fit their plans would make sense. However, hold on 1 second. My boss is messaging me. No, you can bulk search. I think it's 10 companies at a time. All right. Yeah, so I mean, in the end, hold on 1 second. Sorry, guys. So in the end, this is one way you can do it, right? Restructuring all these guys, you get you saved. We were at 28 million. Now we're at 70.2. Okay. But there is another way that you can do this. There is another route. All right. The Panthers could also save cap space by cutting players. Like I said, we have a new offensive staff in place. So moving on from veteran players could be a thing. That, guys who might not fit what's going on here in the plan, right? And then based on their structure and previous alterations, only some contracts would make for substantial savings worthy of moving on. So, for instance, right, it would cost more to cut Sanders than to keep him because of the dead money in his deal. So the same could be said for Corbett or Thielen. The only way to get around all that, around that charge, is to designate the player as a post June 1 release, which means helps spread the dead money, right, hit over 2 seasons. So what means is that the savings wouldn't go through until June, which would be counterproductive from a free agency outlook. Still, some players could be dropped in the summer because of the team's desire for clean slate. So here are some of the significant savings for veteran releases. So let me go back and fix this. Okay. Let's just hit cancel, or let's just put that. Let me do this. So see how it says cut pre-June 1st? That's what we wanted on. All right. So if we cut pre-June 1st, I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to get all these out of here. And as you can see, this contract changing is pretty nuts on here. I think I might like cap over the cap better than I do the other one. The spot tracker. Spot tracker. I like this one better. Trying to make this make sense. Hold on one second. You can make a list of leads in Lucia, though, and make it as long as you want. But I think when you do the search, you can only search 10 companies at a time. But you could have an unlimited amount of leads on just one list to download and export and import into PlanFix, if I'm not mistaken. If that makes sense. Okay. Sorry. All right, so we do the pre-cut. All right, so let's do pre-cut. We're going to start with Dante Jackson. So pre-cut, June 1st. Okay, cap number, okay, is going to be, that's the dead money here. So you see this 9.7? That is the dead money, okay? All right, that 5.9 is the savings just for this year. So you do the pre-cut here, same thing. Savings is only 5, but the dead money is going to be 24. Okay, well, let's go down to like Xavier Woods. Dead money, 3.2. Savings is 4.5. Okay. Let's go to Ian Thomas. Cap number. Okay. Dead money, 3.7. Savings, 2.2. Okay. Okay. Now we go to let's say we cut Eddie Pinheiro. Okay, dead money is 695,000. Savings is 1.8. Terrace Marshall Jr. Dead money is 381,000. Savings is 1.4. So that's another way to do it. So as you can see, right, with the dead money that hits on Jackson, right, and Moten, restructuring contracts can lead to future issues with roster maneuvering. Now, slow money is spent money. So cutting Jackson Moten wouldn't be completely ridiculous because those potential moves would only offer up a small chunk of savings, which might not make sense as both starters need replacing, because Tillis comes from this top flight organization, right? And the Kansas City Chiefs, he is well thought of in the league circle, right? As a cap manager, as a contract negotiator, he could use multiple avenues to create cap savings, including extending Moton, which could make him as much as $13 million in savings this all season, right? So if I go in here and I go to this and I extend or renegotiate, look at that. We just saved cap savings. So remember, dead money's on top, cap savings on the bottom. So if we extend or renegotiate with Taylor Moton, we could save $13 million. So the Brown above extension could be a considerable saving as well. So just how Tillis wants to attack these contracts and how he wants to attack this narrative through multiple angles. Now, we were talking about the Brian Burns deal. It's my understanding that the Panthers would like the pass rusher to return, right? Which you could see over here, right? But the thing is that they need to be mindful of the market and not overpay just to appease Brian Burns. I think it's going to be interesting how they leverage out this agency. And his, this offseason. I mean, the trade probably wouldn't fetch the substantial return, but it would have that it would have in 2022. But it is what it is. We shall see how it pans out. But these are just multiple ways we can go about it. Would these restructure happen before free agency to open up the cap for some of those players? Yeah, they would have to do it. Again, they don't have time to see. They could go this route, right? You see this cut pre 6-1, right? So you see that, right? You submit that they would have to make it. Now, again, with this cut pre June 1st, you're not saving as much money, really, because you're taking a lot of dead money out of this whole thing, right? So, another thing is you're getting a lot of money in this aspect of things. But if what they do is they extend him, they save $13 million that they extend and renegotiate, right? But if they just restructure all these guys, right, that we were talking about, the dead money is just going to add up, as we go down the line with these guys. It's just going to it's going to end up adding up into the future. It's going to be worse. So like you restructure these guys. Let's see, because we were restructuring all these guys right here. Undo. I mean, you just can't expect all the savings in the world when it comes to restructuring. I mean, you can restructure, but then again, the dead money will end up being next, it falls into the next year. So it makes it harder to really save money. I mean, again, who did I not restructure here? No, it wasn't you. Was it Shaq Thompson? Maybe that's what it was. I think it was Shaq that I didn't restructure. Maybe it was Andy Dalton that I didn't restructure. So, I mean, again, that's one route you can go, or you can cut, or you can negotiate. There's multiple ways of going about it when it comes to these contracts, right? There's multiple ways of going about it. So So, I mean, that's how much space they can have. Like I said, they can either there's multiple ways they can go about it, right? They can look at saving cap space by cutting players, or they can save cap space by negotiations and maneuvering cap and or restructuring contracts. It just depends on how they want to attack that thing and how Brant Tillis is going to do so. All right. Let's look at this. So these are their PFF grades. Now, obviously, Brady Christensen was out for the year. Austin Corbett played maybe 2-3 games, but the other three guys, played the whole year. So the question I got to ask you guys is it's the same question you see above there. Would an offensive facelift lead to an immediate turnaround? I know the perception is that the Panthers roster is terrible. But it wasn't like that before the 2023 season. Even the division title was discussed nationally. The defense, even with all the injuries, was okay. But do you think that this team can be competitive with the offense being optimized, right? Because the perception isn't always reality, right? As last season that we know, right? I think the last season's performance indicated that there is a ton of work that needs to be done to get this Panthers out of the muck of the NFL standings wasteland, right? Yes, the defense performed admirably, though their injuries and depth deficiencies was an issue. And defensively, Ajir Evero returning is a massive deal for continuity and scheming potential. You bring in new head coach Dave Canales now as a leader on the offense, who knows his units and personnel and vice versa and all that, right? So the outlook should lead to less roster manipulation than it would have with a clean slate on the defense. So the logical recipe for success here, I think, would be embrace a new look to this offense with players who match that Canales scheme needs, right? I think the reasonable expectation is that the Panthers fill out the offense with young veterans to surround quarterback Bryce Young with building blocks for the upcoming 2-season turnaround, right? It's going to be 2 seasons to turn this around at least. And I don't think the Panthers should be wheeling and dealing this offseason, as they probably a year or two away from being competitive again, in the sense of being a potential NFC contender, right? So with that being said, I think they should look to craft a reasonable packs with up and coming free agents who fit the long-term plans. A big swing at wide receiver, tight end, or the offensive line, right? Along with a mixed assortment of second tier free agents, I think would also suffice. So, that's why I was saying, Gabe Davis, Colby Parkson, Jonah Williams, Marquise Brown might be more attainable, right? With this type of strategy than going after a guy like T. Higgins, Hunter Henry, Andreas Pete, Mike Evans that are on the market, right? And I think the goal this season, I see the sky being the high ceiling for our team this next season is 6 wins at most, right? I see 6 wins, right? And then, hell, we could end up win 2 games next season. But I think it's a reasonable forecast for the Panthers after a 2-15 season. So the win total could possibly triple from last year, right? And help the Panthers ascend at a pace that can be considered a building block, hopefully for the years to come, right? Because those teams who win free agency typically lose in the regular season. And the Detroit Lions have shown that steady climbs are more sustainable than all-in reworkings, right? Again, I wouldn't count on a Houston Texans-like turnaround. I think this team's draft outlook is very different than what Houston's last year was, right? And again, I mean, many of the Panthers will be basing this off on Young's progress. And obviously, with the summer of Canales overlooking him, we shall see. We shall see. I definitely think that this needs to be looked into, though. I think there's some guys that we can definitely bring in who are some veterans. Yeah, those grades are rough. I mean, yes, I would say Corbett and Christensen get the pass for sure. They did not, they weren't around very much, right? So we talked about a lot, man. We talked about the most important. We talked about the most important dates coming up to be on the lookout for. So mark your calendars with these. We went over Matt Corral going to the UFL. Ayuk possibly coming to the Panthers. Could that be a scenario? Why it makes no sense for the Panthers to go after Hassan Reddick. Is it possible to keep these three guys together? Talked about how to maneuver the cap space between restructuring contracts and the difference between restructuring contracts and the difference between tagging and long-term deals. And we went over how you can cut players to save money. So we went over a lot there with the cap space. Then, of course, the offensive facelift. I think there's multiple ways we can go with that too. Matt Marcos, he went the UFL. He signed the dotted line to the UFL. He is on the Birmingham Stallions. He signed the dotted line. So, well, guys, I appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Make sure you pound the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you click that post notifications bell so you don't miss out on any new content. Let's keep this off-season train going. I'm going to be trying to bring as much content to you as possible. There's a lot going on. So there's a lot going on until July once we get into training camp, and then there's going to be a lot of outlook on that. I mean, there's still going to be NFL football. Obviously more news than play, but I'm still going to be keeping up with it, still giving you my thoughts on things, keeping you up to date on things, stuff like that. So, I'm giving you my thoughts. So I appreciate everyone joining the live stream. I'm about to hop off of here. I'm going to go to the gym. And as always, guys, y'all know what to do. Keep pounding. Peace.